I'm terribly sorry. I'm 10 minutes late here, or 11 on a Sunday school. Mr. Lon has showed up late for Sunday school. I wonder if he's drunk. I'm terribly sorry. I make fun of my Sunday school teachers, several of whom, all of the women anyway, were just absolutely lovely individuals. But we're talking about 1955, 6, 7, 8, uh, Columbus, Nebraska. And so they were pretty wholesome, kind of 19th century people. But the men were just, I'm sorry, they were just assholes. Okay, major racist, ignorant. And the more I grew up and the more I learned about life and reality, the stupider they become, and the less and less respect I have for them. Uh, but but anyway, uh, I've been thinking about biblical themes and stuff because uh, the Bible is or the book of the law. It's called in Freemasonry, but in most lodges that generic entity is represented by the a holy Bible, okay, on the altar. Uh, and most Masons, especially in the United States and Europe, take their oath. They swear on a Bible just like the president swears on a Bible, and judges make you swear on a Bible and stuff because everyone thinks, well, it's the generic holy book. Masonry is absolutely cool enough to say, okay, you're going to have to take an oath at this initiation. And do you have objections to taking it on the Bible, or would you like to bring your own holy book and take your oath on that? Whatever is sacred to you, that's what we want you to do. And which is very cool. I, of course, brought a beautiful copy of the Book of the Law, complete with the facsimile, the handwriting edition, and uh, the man that was initiated with me was also a Thelemite, and he took it on that. It was wonderful to see the officers of the lodge in their formal opening and closing of the ceremony, which includes an opening and a closing of the Bible, to see the Book of the Law open on the altar of my Masonic lodge. It was quite moving. Anyway, and I'm going to do. I've agreed to do a little talk and a presentation to my lodge brothers in Livermore a little later next year, and I'm excited to do that. I always like to do that, and I've spoken and lectured and presented my little presentation at Masonic lodges, well, all over the country, and I enjoy doing it very much. But I ran across something that I'd written because well, I wrote this book, okay, called The Key to Solomon's Key. Is this the lost symbol of Masonry? The original subtitle was Secrets of Magic and Masonry. But it deals a lot with not only the myth of King Solomon and the true empirical historical roots of the Bible. It deals with history, empirical history, not biblical history, but history. And I sort of speculate in the book uh, how this might all fit in with the idea of the European divine right of kings that actually goes back to if the kings can prove they're relatives of Jesus or relatives of King David. Okay. And that was the whole kind of organized structure of Europe for so many years. Many wars fought over that and everything else, and is all sort of based on they wanted to base everything on the Bible and things like that, and so the Bible became, very a central piece of the authority of real live military and political power. And as many of us know, that sometimes military and political power have unworthy motives. Sometimes they're not in the best interest of the lives and happiness of most of us. But anyway, I was interviewed somewhere along the line, and somebody asked, because I talk about God a lot. I mean, in my own way, I'm a religious fanatic. Okay. But I like to think of myself as a rational religious fanatic and think of things in terms of consciousness and things that I can sort of grasp with my meat brain. And somebody questioned me. I think it was in a written magazine interview or something. About magical ages and or the ages like yugas. We talked about this just day before yesterday, I think. I start off by there is no doubt in my mind that people from previous ages had a higher state of consciousness. We're talking about the cycles of yugas where people are smart and then they get dumb and then they're smart and they get dumb. Okay. With all these magical courses, we also try to find ourselves in our enlightened state. Oh, I think this was an interview about my participation in the video series, The Secret, or The Secret of the Secret. And here's what I say. I believe that human consciousness probably fluctuates in cycles. Presently, I think we're in an ascending cycle, and at that time, I was pretty sure that we were in ascending Dwapara Yuga. Now I'm not sure. Okay, but the potential for particular individuals achieving higher levels of consciousness is present, no matter what cycle humanity as a whole is undergoing. And then the interviewer says, I hear this is very difficult, and people who have been learning, in quotes, for more than 20 years don't even reach this enlightened state, which is perfectly true. And I say, while I believe a certain amount of benefits are gained from reading and study, it is because such practices might lead one to the meditations and disciplines that might lead to illumination. I don't believe attaining higher levels of consciousness is something that can be achieved through learning. It is something you become, not something you learn. And here it is. I know this interviewer was just itching to do this one. Do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? My answer is very simple. In the way most Christians might view or understand the term, no. But the way I understand it, yes, and so are you. Okay. Do you think it is possible that Jesus is more accessible, a more accessible way for us humans in the lower ages of the yugas to overcome death? This, after all, is what the Bible tells us. Now, in a sense, there's a certain amount of bhakti yogi wisdom in that question. So I'm not ridiculing that question. Here's my answer. I think under the right circumstances, one-pointed devotion to any divine concept, including that of Jesus Christ, can serve as a technique that can produce a degree of illumination where the concept of death is indeed overcome. I do not, however, believe that the simple belief in the historicity of any event, miraculous or otherwise, is the key to overcoming anything. Okay, that was that question. I believe the interview came from Holland, actually. So keeping that in mind, let's get back to Masonry, and maybe you know, because Masons, especially those who were influenced by French Masonry in the 18th century, really revere the Knights Templar, and which is that military order that lasted for a couple hundred years, very powerful. They were, in a sense, the greatest, single most economic and military organization on earth. They were like a international country without borders, and the biggest army and biggest navy in the world. Okay, but for some reason, the crown princes of Europe, the divine right of kings, leaders in Europe, just gave these guys carte blanche. Okay, they borrowed money from them. It's as if, I'm not saying, because I can't prove anything historically, but it was as if the Knights Templar sort of had something on the Pope. They had something on the crown princes of Europe that allowed them to become a higher class of citizen than the serfs and the population, general population of Europe. Knights Templars could go they had a pass. They had a passport. Literally, they had a passport. They could move as they will on the face of the earth. Nobody else could do that. They had to, I mean, of the people. And they were allowed to do that for over 200 years. Okay, so there's speculation about what they had, because they were allowed to actually live and billeted themselves in Jerusalem and the so-called Holy Land, and got to know the area, got to know the people, got to know the history, the the real history, Well, that town couldn't be that because my great grandfather, lived there, and it was called this, and we don't have any record of this happening or that happening or. So the Knights Templar had intelligence information, okay, concerning the historicity of first of all, first century Jerusalem, which was just almost yesterday at the time in 1111, whenever. And not only that, but they had relatives. The Templars had relatives in Europe, including Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, and who actually would end up writing the Templars' little like constitution and stuff, and introduced them to the Pope, and the Pope says, "Oh, okay, you guys do anything you want, just okay." But anyway, here's a little clip. I don't know if any of this made it into the book. I'm not saying that this is actually what happened, okay? I'm just saying that Masonry seems to have been formed by individuals who had this more liberated spiritual worldview, and structure in the tenets and ceremonies and traditions are constructed so as to draw the members' attention to these very myths that could give one this more liberated worldview, if properly investigated and meditated upon. Now, by now you're probably asking, there seems to be a conflict in traditions. Masonry is influenced by, if not descended from, the Templars. The secret of the temple is most likely the proof that history does not agree with the Bible history, specifically stories about King Solomon. As a matter of fact, Solomon and David and the whole foundation of that story. If there was a Solomon or a David, they weren't the regal characters that supposedly ran an empire that ran from the Euphrates to the Nile. That just didn't happen, okay? Yet Masonry reveres the Bible and focuses on Solomon, the building of the temple, and the return of the Jews from captivity in Babylon. Why does Masonry constantly call our attention to characters and events that never happened? And my answer is precisely for the purpose of calling our attention to those things so we will discover that they didn't happen. Not only that, but on a spiritual level, realize that it doesn't matter. I'm not an atheist. I believe in God. I believe that the mind of God is the supreme consciousness, and that I am a unit or frequency in that supreme consciousness. I believe there are units and frequencies of consciousness that are higher than I, and I believe there are units or frequencies of consciousness that are lower than I. I believe that it is the ultimate purpose of all units of frequencies of consciousness to develop, unfold, or evolve to become higher and higher units or frequencies of consciousness until we become one with the supreme consciousness. As part of the whole, I can never cease to exist. Okay, and I talk about the two-part secret of the Templars, and I get more specific there. I'm not saying that Masonry is part of a centuries-old concerted effort to hide the objective, non-supernatural origins of the Old and New Testaments. I don't have to say it because I just did. I'm just saying that Masonry seems to have been formed by individuals that had this more liberated and universal spiritual worldview, and that the structure, the tenets, ceremonies, and traditions are constructed so as to draw the members' attention to the very myths that would give us this one worldview if properly investigated and meditated upon. I'm not questioning the historicity of the first century teacher and healer upon whom the myth of Jesus Christ is based. He's mentioned in the writings of Josephus. What is in question is the supernatural nature of who he was vis-a-vis objective history. I believe that each of us must recognize the moment when the irrational magic of our faith begins to corrupt and destroy the rational magic of our reason. So that's my sermon. But I ran across. I had a little epigraph on this one little essay that I started. It's Umberto Eco. Okay, I love Umberto Eco. Okay, I love Foucault's Pendulum, and I love The Name of the Rose. As a matter of fact, the movie The Name of the Rose scared Constance so much. It scared her more than any horror movie or slasher movie or blood, and it was so scary. It's about monks and a secret blasphemous book. Okay. Here's what Umberto Eco said, and I heartily agree. Perhaps the mission of those who love mankind is to make people laugh at the truth, to make truth laugh, because the only truth lies in learning to free ourselves from the insane passion for the truth. And that's how I'm going to end Sunday school lesson for this morning. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.